So can I go ahead and...
You may
Excellent.
ask
I had
any
a
question
question.
you want.
So at this point, do you basically get one of everything that you deem is out there in science fiction in terms of magazines and paperbacks and hardcovers, or are you still have to be selective?
Right, do you have a Drek meter?
The goal is to get one of everything. Julia can answer this question more exquisitely than I, because we do have to work within a budget, but I'll tell you, if it gets donated here and it's SF, we want it. And we don't have a Drek meter, because nothing is Drek. If it's SF, we want it.
Wow.
With all due respect to Theodore Sturgeon, and we all know what the famous phrase is, we are not in a position to make that value judgment. We want to provide to the researcher, to the fan, to the lover of this genre, speculative fiction, the opportunity to view everything. So, and as far as actually purchasing, we try to get one of every edition. As far as collecting, if there's a collector out there that has a passionately, lovingly amassed 40, 50-year-old collection.
And we hope you're listening, collectors.
Exactly. and you know that...
You can donate to the sign that's right overhead.
Ding, 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 ding,
Or
ding.
will call and the Eaton.
Call now. But wait, there's more. The reality is that when we think about our community, and I like to be inclusive in there because I feel that I'm as much a part of this as I could possibly be. There are relatives in my life that just don't get it. And because they don't get it, they're not going to get it. I don't want to see my collection end up in a dumpster or at a garage sale. And the reality is, this is a really great home.
And let me add one thing. We try to collect is in as many languages as we possibly
Good
can.
point.
Oh, wow.
And formats.
And formats, but
I mean, people write books in things other than English?
believe it or not, there is more science fiction in the world than it was dreamt by your philosophers.
By the way, Julia, you have a permission to slap Eaton if he gets out of line.
You've heard that old joke?
And
Christine?
for example, I had in my hands, and we have in our collection, a volume of Czech science fiction stories, among others by Karel Čapek, in Ndbele language, which is, I believe, Zimbabwe.
Wow.
Do you have a copy of the first theatrical screenplay, or I suppose a theater play, whatever you call it, where the word robot is actually used in its for the first time? 'Cause I believe it was a Czechoslovakian.
If anybody
play.
has it, Eaton, they do.
It was. We have the first English edition, but my job is among others, to provide originals of all.
So
this,
you definitely have something to look for out there.
I'm looking at for this particular one.
That would be amazing to see.
Video helps us add the Slavic languages, and Russian is a Slavic language. So
Well, I guess that's an interesting question. It wasn't on my list, but is there
No, you can't ask it.
Is there a bent towards Slavic science fiction that is necessarily different than, say, Western or American English? Is
British.
I know that's a broad generalization. I realize that. I'm just,
It is changing, but 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I would say definitely yes. There is, for many writers, science fiction was a means, was a literary form that they could write and publish stuff that they wouldn't be able to push through the censorship. So in many cases, science fiction was sort of cover for a social
Well, my brother and I
literature.
were very respectful because we were not the first brothers to actually write in science fiction.
That was our rude awakening,
That was our rude-
discovering the Stradetsky brothers.
The Stradetsky brothers were the
Stugatsky,
first,
yeah.
and we realized that they were absolutely positively brilliant individuals because they wrote in the Soviet Union, and their premise was 1,000 years in the future, communism works, and then they would write whatever they want. And the party was happy with them because as long as they said communism works, then they could write about aliens and suns exploding and exploring other planets and anything, and they were good. They had dashas, they could go to America, nobody cared because I thought that was actually very smart of them.
So, were you finished? I'm sorry, Vito?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's this great vision in Raiders of the Lost Ark at the end where there's this massive collection of stuff, and there's this sort of Tetris-like moment where we realize the Golden Ark is being forever lost in this massive kind of collection, which isn't to imply that things will get lost here. You sound quite organized, actually. But are there...
There has to be a big warehouse or warehouses.
Are there
or
Golden Arks of sorts for you guys that are in this collection that are,
underground bunkers?
no, not underground, but like,
It's
something
a
that
TARDIS.
really
We're a
incredible
TARDIS.
thing. Oh, a TARDIS. You
We're a
got
TARDIS.
you've
No,
got
we
TARDIS
are a
in here?
TARDIS.
Oh, you are a TARDIS.
The way I like to think of it is,
Yeah.
what if I had to get things out of here quickly? And because we are in earthquake country, we actually do discuss this. And we have some things in a special area that we would direct a rescue crew to first. And among those things are the first edition in 3 volumes of Frankenstein, the first edition of Dracula. We have the Fahrenheit 451 printed on asbestos paper. We have the 1517, pretty cool. We have the 1517 Utopia in its original limp vellum binding.
Thomas More?
By Thomas More.
Cool.
This was the 2nd edition. It was pirated out of France. It's really, really rare. So we have a number of these things, and I'm going to let Guido mention some of the other things too, and Julia, because they have certain favorites of theirs. We also have, we were talking about all different formats. We have realia. We have dolls. We have Star Trek action figures, superheroes. But I don't want to run out of time, so Julia, what would you save?
Quickly, one of our benefactors, Fred Patton, after serious medical issues, donated his 40-year passion to us, 820 boxes, not items, boxes of
Over
things.
500,000 items.
It was incredible. One of the pieces that I remember distinctly was Reynard the Fox.
Oh, yes.
And there are only 4 other libraries that we know of. Now, there could be others out there that aren't connected to the library world, but we're one of 5 libraries now that own this Reynard the Fox.
Guido, what would you save?
What I like to say is that I don't have any particular item. What I see as a value is the comprehensiveness, that you can look at Greg Benford Timescape, from the little piece of paper when he jotted his ideas through the additions and additions and additions, and then compare them, compare it with the old published versions, and then you can go to the fanzines and find the reviews of it. And for example, our recent acquisition due to a grant from Breslauer Foundation, the Time Machine, in a New York edition that is completely different than the London edition that became the base for the later publishings, that you can have these 2 in front of you and compare line by line. That's the value. That's the treasure.